Hello YouTube and fellow Star Wars collectors! On this episode of Toys Are the Way, we'll be taking a look at the latest addition to the Vintage Collection's 2025 offerings, the Star Wars Cantina Adventure set. Welcome back everyone and channel members. So here we have yet again another delivery for 2025, and it is this Cantina Adventure set, which is essentially a cardboard backdrop which is paying homage to the original Kenner release, and we're getting a number of characters that are repaints of figures that we have already seen this year. Now I will say this is something I wanted to see personally, but I do think some of the figures could have been done a little bit better in my opinion. Now, as much as I love the character Zutton, I don't think the figure is all that great. And here you can see a mock-up I did for Blue Snaggletooth that utilizes the lower legs from Kanan Jarrus from Rebels. I think some kind of kitbash like this giving us a new, better figure would have been the way to go in my personal opinion. And then you can see another mock-up I made where I was wishlisting getting these actual repaints of Hammerhead, Greedo, and Walrus Man into the collection. Now I will also say that the Walrus Man figure is not that great either, and I wish they would have done something like this that would have been much better to see in our collections. But with all that being said and done, don't forget to smash a like on this video, subscribe if you're new, or even become a channel member, and let's take a closer look at the packaging and figures. Taking a look at our vintage style packaging, we have the Star Wars logo and racetrack nice and boldly displayed, followed by Cantina Adventure set, and then a nice toy photography image of all the different characters being displayed with the cardboard backdrop. Naturally, we have the Kenner logo in the bottom left corner and the Hildebrandt one in the top left, followed by a call out down below that lets you know there's a bunch of carded figures included with this release. On the top of the box, we have the Star Wars and Hildebrandt logo once again, and another toy photography image showing all the characters displayed, and then separate thumbnails showing each character and their respective name pill color, and the Kenner logo to finish it off. On the bottom of the box, we have the Star Wars and Hildebrandt logo once again, followed by copyright info, and then another icon showing you everything that's included in this set. And lastly, on the sides of the box, we have the Star Wars, Hildebrandt, and Kenner logo once again, followed by Cantina Adventure set, and then another image showing off the figures displayed with the cardboard backdrop. Taking a look at the back of the box, we have the same exact graphic layout, except this time with the Vintage Collection logo in the top right corner. Moving on to the contents inside the box, you have a cardboard tray which slides out and has all of your carded figures nice and tucked away, so there is no damage on these whatsoever. So that is always great to see. And then if you take a look at the back over here, you can see that the cardboard display is nice and tucked away as well. Taking a look at the backdrop, you can see it's made of a pretty decent cardstock that's got some nice weight to it. It folds open like so, and technically you're supposed to bend it at some of these score marks here, so it's got a little bit of an angle, and then you can like kind of put it together like so. I don't really like that personally. I would like it to just stay flat against a shelf, so we'll see how I kind of like do that in the future. But overall, it's got a pretty decent print on it, and it's got some fun Mos Eisley Tatooine vibes going on, and it'll definitely make a really nice display on your shelf. Taking a look at our vintage style packaging, we have the Star Wars logo and racetrack nice and proudly displayed on each one of these card backs, along with the Hildebrandt logo in the top right corner and the Kenner one down below. Now, each one of these cards utilizes the very same image that was used on the original Kenner release. We have Hammerhead looking nice and alien-like in the cantina. We have that airbrush illustration of Walrus Man. We have Greedo as he's facing off with Han Solo. And then we have Snaggletooth, who is actually Zutmore from the Holiday Special, which they've done a little bit of Photoshop work there and made him wearing a blue tracksuit instead of red. Taking a look at this full lineup, they're going to make a great addition to anyone's carded collection, especially with these nice pops of color when you have Hammerhead with the yellow, Walrus Man with the lime green, Greedo with an orange name pill color, and then lastly Snaggletooth with the yellow. On the back, Hammerhead is VC376 in the line, Walrus Man is VC377, Greedo is VC378, and lastly, Snaggletooth is VC379. And then there's a small description of each character followed by the Vintage Collection logo and additional images of the card figure and their respective name pill color. Taking a look at Hammerhead out of the packaging, this is one of my favorite figures of the year in general, just in terms of the articulation and sculpting that we saw on the previous release. Now, I like what they did here for the Kenner repaint. I think it looks really good, and I'm actually pretty excited to get this one into the collection because you saw an Ithorian like this in the Clone Wars and in the Bad Batch, so he's definitely going to blend in well with my spaceport diorama. But taking a look at the figure, there is one thing that kind of bothers me a little bit, and it's the difference in the color between his sleeves and pants compared to the soft goods and then the rest of the body. Now, part of me doesn't like that difference, but part of me also finds it maybe a little bit more visually interesting, and maybe that's what Hasbro was going for. But let me know how you feel about that down below. But yeah, he comes with this one accessory, just like you saw with the other release. And if you're not familiar with this figure, it has some really good articulation. It's definitely one of the better ones out of the bunch. It's got, a swivel at the thigh. It's got a great bend at the knee. It's got rocker ankles. It'll be able to pose quite well in your collection. So a really good figure. But if we bring in that previous release here, you can see how very similar they are. Pretty much, it's the exact same figure, except it's gotten a little bit of a different paint scheme going on, and it didn't come with all the same accessories. But yeah, like I mentioned before, definitely very excited to have this one. It's going to look great just as a background alien in my collection. Moving right along and taking a look at Walrus Man out of the packaging, this is where the set starts to go a little bit downhill for me. Now, this Ponda Baba figure is definitely pretty outdated when it comes to articulation. We recently got it repacked, and I do have that repack. I just haven't even bothered to open it yet because it's not an exciting figure. It has swivel hips, which are just garbage. It has a bend at the knee, has no rocker ankles, just a hinge, and yeah, just posing it is really not all that great. It's pretty limited in my opinion. And then, the upper body has, a swivel. It's got some hinges at the shoulders and stuff. It can do some things, but it's just not overall a very good figure. Now, it does come with two sets of hands. You get these more flippery, like Walrus Man hands, or you get the standard ones that come with it. I'm choosing to go with these ones just because it's a little bit more Walrus Man-like. Now, my problems with this figure obviously are the articulation, and yeah, I really would have liked them to do a new Ponda Baba figure in general, but I think it would have been fun to give this figure new lower legs too and make them more flipper-like and make him very Walrus Man. But yeah, the other thing I don't like about this figure is what they did with the paint scheme here. So the original Walrus Man is, orange all the way across his whole upper body, and then his arms are blue. And I don't know why they opted to paint this right here that tan color. Maybe they thought that would make it more interesting or more realistic, but it just doesn't look quite right. I would have liked that to be all orange, and to be honest, these could have just been casted in blue and give him blue arms and just make him much closer to that original paint scheme. But yeah, overall, I really think this figure needed an overhaul. It needs to be new, and yeah, definitely a little bit disappointing. But as you can see, he can hold the blaster well, and for what it's worth, he will look okay on your shelf display. But yeah, definitely a little bit lacking when it comes to this one. So with one step forward and then one step back because of Walrus Man, we're back to another step forward with this awesome Greedo figure. Now this is just a repaint of the recent Greedo figure that we got with the Cantina HasLab, which was all new from the ground up, and I gotta say, it's been one of my favorite figures so far this year. Now I really like the simplified color scheme we got going on here with that bright lime jumpsuit. He looks fantastic, and if you're not familiar with this figure, it has all that modern articulation that you want on the lower legs and stuff like that. Now, he doesn't have the boots like the original Kenner release, but that doesn't really bother me too much. But yeah, moving on to the upper body, he's got great hinges at the shoulders and elbows and the wrist. He's got a little bit of a crunch going on here. You can rotate 360 degrees, and yeah, just a really nice figure. Now, something I noticed on mine is he has a little bit of a shifty eye thing going on. And while there's a little bit of charm to that, I think it's more of a factory issue. I feel like that was supposed to be a little bit more centered, but let me know how yours turned out in the comments down below. And yeah, like I said, he just looks a little shifty, but I don't know. It's not a total game changer, but I'm a little disappointed about it. But if we bring in that Greedo from the HasLab Cantina, you can see the differences here, which is pretty much this one didn't come with the vest, and there's obviously different paint schemes going on. Now, I gotta say that this Rhodian has been a breath of fresh air for me in the vintage collection. I can't wait for a mainline release of this. I'm gonna buy a bunch for customs, and yeah, Greedo is just a really fantastic figure. And like I mentioned before with Hammerhead, this version right here is going to be a nice background alien in my spaceport diorama and stuff like that. So I'm definitely happy to get this repaint into my collection. And saving the best, but also most frustrating for last, we have my boy Blue Snaggletooth, who is, as I mentioned before, a repaint of my guy Zutton here. Now, Zutton is definitely one of my favorite figures from the vintage collection in general, just because I like Snivians a lot, and look at him, he's so ridiculous. But I will admit he's not a very good action figure, and that really bums me out. So the problem with Zutton, or, Blue Snaggletooth here, is that you unfortunately have swivel thighs, and they're not great. He's got these short, stumpy legs, and yeah, he's extremely limited when it comes to posing him. So that is most unfortunate. He has a bend at the knee, which is okay, but he doesn't have any rocker ankles either. Just has a hinge, which really doesn't do a whole lot, to be honest. So a big letdown. I want to, pose this figure. I want to take photos of it and make it look really cool. And he's just so limiting. He's just going to stand around in a cantina looking very Snivian-like with those crazy eyes. And while I love that, I also just want more from him. I just want him to be better. But taking a look at what they did here, we have a nice blue outfit going on with these silver boots. The boots look great. Nice silver paint application there, nice and shiny. He has the same blaster pistol as before. You're able to actually put that in the back here. It's kind of like a little holster type of thing going on. If you just slide it in like so, it will be nice and secure back there, and he will be ready to duel with somebody in a cantina or whatever. He does have, swivel here. He can move, no crunch. He has, of course, arm articulation. Kind of limited. Like, look at that bend at the elbow there. It's not even at 90 degrees. No hinges at the wrist, just a swivel. And then he's got some pretty decent head articulation, so he can do some nice gestures and stuff. And I do like what they did with the paint applications here, matching that original Kenner figure and making him look kind of zombie-like and crazy. But yeah, overall, a decent addition, but I just wanted so much more for a Snivian like this, and especially a cult classic like Blue Snaggletooth. This is, very important to Star Wars collecting, and when it comes to the vintage collection, I always expect the best. But let me know your thoughts about Blue Snaggletooth in the comments down below. So here you see all the figures displayed in the Cantina Adventure set, and I must admit that this is kind of a fun way to display these figures. I'm not really a huge fan when it comes to like cardboard backdrops and stuff, but I see the charm here. There's some really fun illustrations and details on this thing. It has some, really cool little illustrations of like aliens in the background and stuff like that. And yeah, I could see this being something that's like really cool for your shelf display, and if you had a bunch of figures set up on this. So overall, not too bad here. You can see some really cool tread marks on the ground, maybe from like a sand crawler or something like that. There's a lot of footsteps of different aliens and like critters, and patrons of like Mos Eisley Spaceport. But yeah, like I said, pretty simple and a nice way to display your figures. So once again, Hasbro delivers another creative repaint for the vintage collection with the Cantina Adventure Set 4-pack. While the word repaint can cause frustration within the collecting community, the nostalgic Kenner paint schemes are a strong choice for a proper 375 release. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for how some of the figures are presented and how they compare to modern vintage collection figures. While both Hammerhead and Greedo sport the latest and greatest modern articulation and sculpting, both Walrus Man and Snaggletooth leave much to be desired and are just an overall buzzkill. The horribly outdated swivel hips and lack of anything new on these two characters makes the set overall less exciting to me personally, as I always want to be able to pose these quote-unquote action figures and show off their full potential. A modern Blue Snaggletooth was high on my wish list, and sadly the set did not do them justice because the figure is far too short and really deserved an all-new figure. I hope you've enjoyed this video and taking a look at this latest addition to our vintage collection shelf displays, the Star Wars Cantina Adventure Set. Feel free to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really helps and is always greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone, and may the Force be with you.